In this hand, we completed in the small blind after MP limped in, and with a very strong combo draw, we definitely want to start betting the flop for value. Any jack or six makes us the nuts, and we've got the clubs. Because I have so many draw cards, I've got three clubs, I've got the up and down. I am just going to check give up on this turn and then river. My reasoning being because I've got the straight draw, because I've got the flush draw, it stands to reason my opponent has a made hand, maybe a weaker made hand like 7-4 that can't really fold but doesn't want to build a pot. Obviously, he could have a draw too. And when you're semi bluffing on the flop and you get called and the turn pairs the board, that's often a good spot to fire a second barrel because you have the lead. So the assumption is that you have a strong made hand. That's why you're betting to price out the draws to get value because you got a set or top two or whatever. So it's a good spot to fire again because if your opponent has a draw, they might have like a pair with the draw and actually be in dominating shape, but they'll fold because they don't want to continue to draw once the board's paired. However, in this hand, my opponent is a very loose player. You can't see his stats, but he's played 83% of hands over, okay, only 14 hands. And you don't want to generalize too much on the basis of just a few hands. But when their VPIP is 82% over 15 hands, 82-0, that actually does tell you a lot about the player, and you can generalize from that they're going to be very loose. That's a reasonable assumption to make. If, on the other hand, if you look at somebody's like 3-bet stat over 14 hands, that's completely irrelevant. That takes longer to converge. But when when the VPIP and pre-flop raise are 80-0 over 15 hands, you can already build a profile there, and we can reasonably infer my opponent's going to be very loose. So there's less value in trying to fire that second barrel. And as I said, the exact components of my hand, I had three clubs. I've got the up and down. That does sort of pigeonhole my opponent into more of the made hand category. Even if he has a draw, he probably won't fold it anyway. So also, if he's passive, we might just win the pot checking it down. So that's my reasoning for, in that specific situation, not continuing with my aggression. In general, you want to semi-bluff more against regs and less against very loose players because you are relying on some element of fold equity. Yes, we can improve on the river, and that's great, but with a draw, we're still going to be an underdog to do that. So they have to be folding at a reasonable amount of the time in order for your semi bluff to be profitable. We're happy to check here in the big blind. This is a strong hand, but it is still more of an implied odds hand, more of a, we're not going to hit the flop all that often. We do have some ways to make the nuts. It's a strong hand. We would defend it in the big blind, certainly, but it's different from this hand, Ace King 10-5. which while it with this flop, although we do have quite a number of backdoors, but this is a hand that's going to have a lot more playability, a lot more value. This is the sort of hand we would be raising from the big blind against limpers. Jack, Jack, Ace, Deuce, it's a good hand, it's a strong hand, it's a playable hand, but we're happy to keep the pot small. Obviously, okay, so we check back the flop here. We do whiff. We have some backdoors, but turn comes and our opponent half pot into us, so we're getting 3-1. Very easy call, and we can calculate our outs quite easily. We have 4 nines and then 3 of ace king or 10, so it's 13 outs, and we're getting 3-1 when they half pot into us. If they had bet full pot, then it becomes a more difficult decision. And of course, we're going to defend this here. Not a terrible flop. We flop an 8 out nut draw to 10 or 5, double gut shot, and we got a pair. I'm going to continue. You look at how much is left, and there's a chance we hit the turn. We get the money in pretty good. A very, very interesting turn card. Now we've got 2 pair. Our straight draw is significantly devalued, but we pick up a flush draw. And he bets large. Very interesting decision. I guess I'm going to call again. Okay, and he had Jack 7, Queen 10. Interesting. Pretty clear fold. Even after Jim Big Boss takes 2 to the face, we would definitely have defended against a single raise. Meanwhile, picking up pretty good aces. We've got a nut suit, and the 8-7 offers us a little extra board coverage. Flop comes Jack 9-8, 2-tone, very connected. We have a little bit of board interaction with the ace of hearts, as well as the 8 and the 7. So I'm gonna try a c-bet, and definitely just gonna fold to the raise. No question about it. Our opponent's a loose player, so we don't want to like draw to the dry ace. That could get expensive. Ace Jack 9-8 double suited. Very good hand on the button. And we're definitely going to play probably with a call here is best. We've got the button. So we've got position. And we can evaluate as the hand progresses. That's a really small bet. We're getting 5-1 with a gut shot. With so much money behind, I guess I'm going to call. Would not hate a fold because somebody else could easily have ace jack as well, in which case we're drawing to a chop. Of course, for 10 cents on the turn, we're still in. And just going to give up on the river. This hand, we open marginal aces. And we get 4 callers. We're definitely going to just check give up on the flop. In 5-way pots, you have to have a pretty good hand to bet. You're against 16 cards, and chances are at least two of your opponents hit the flop pretty hard. We can definitely fold here. You really, when it goes mass multi-way, especially in like a low or high SPR situation, you you need to connect pretty strongly with the flop in order to start putting money in the pot. All right, we open it up and get squeezed. This is not ideal, but we're going to peel. This hand plays pretty well against a 3-bet. Flop comes queen deuce 6. And I think we're going to go with it. This could get nasty, but we're getting 2-1 to stack off here. And unfortunately, villain does have the club draw, so we're pretty big underdog. However, we still win. Pretty nice aces in the small blind. Definitely want to put in a 3-bet here. We get a pretty good flop, but it's a little bit problematic because the SPR is still relatively high. This hand we open and see that with our blockers, take it down. We pick up aces, MP versus under the gun, and put in the 3-bet. A little bit deep here. I like these aces. We have a nut suit, and we actually have 4 cards working together. So looking for a deuce 5 on the flop. And usually under the gun's going to call here. Might fold some hands. Going to opt for a flat here in the small blind. I'm happy for the big blind to come along. And just going to check him out now. Little blind on blind action. My opponent's very short. And not going to fold the 3-bet. No, this hand. Flop the nut flush draw with SPR 1. And wow, he had a monster. But I hit the diamond right away. Opening up king, queen, 8-5, double suited from middle position. Pretty solid flop. 5-5 queen, flopping the full house. I'm going to fast play it. There's a diamond draw. My opponent might have 5x. And wow, he raises. Hopefully that's not pocket jacks, and that's 5-jack. I'm going to go call. Hate that river. Wow. He checks. Why does he check? I really want to value bet this. Why is he scared of the jack? Does he have queen 5 as well? What's he raising on the turn? It's calling a river bet that I beat. Oh, he had diamonds. He might have actually called a river bet there. But that's very interesting actually. He's a loose passive player, but he made a very aggressive turn semi bluff there. Which is a little impressive, actually. Beautiful situation for betting these Magnum single-suited aces. We got the queen back up, and it looks like our opponent also has aces. Wow. Wow, he's also got very good aces. And okay, we dodge the free roll. Meanwhile, flopping trips, taking it down. And we pick up a very strong hand here. We're going to put in a nitty flat call from the big blind. Don't make this play at home, folks. Put in the 3-bet. Queen 10 9 8 under the gun versus MP. I feel like in theory this might be a fold, but I'm going to call, expecting the small blind to come into the pot, wanting to play pots with him, and having a reasonable hand as well. And I'm going to bet, although I'm not sure that's the correct play. All right, turn is a 9. We've got 2 pair. We've got a flush draw. The problem is our flush outs might not be live. Even our full house outs are a little dubious. So he's repping like Queen Jack. Okay, I'm gonna peel one. I'm not gonna bluff here. He did have Queen Jack. So I was okay, I guess. We had 13 outs. Wouldn't hate a fold there because the flush is low, the full house is a little low. Ultimately, I called because I thought my opponent is peeling very wide on the flop. Ergo, he's going to have hands that dominate me, and my draw is less frequently on the turn. Like he'll have more just bare queen jacks. He actually had ace queen jack, which is a fine flop peel. But like a bare queen jack probably shouldn't be calling there. If we're calling there.